I gotta ask though, we learned a lot about these lockdowns and the masks and even, what the vaccines, where their bounds were effectiveness. Do you think there's an appetite to reimpose this going into this next season, we'll say, or do you think people are just going to reject it all?
What's really important is that we continue to tell people what these vaccines can do and can't do. Natural infection and vaccines are not going to protect you for long periods of time against infection. These vaccines were made to protect our most vulnerable Americans from dying and from being hospitalized. And those are the individuals who are going to need the right vaccine. What I worry about is we made a vaccine based on last year's variant. The whole point of messenger RNA was to be able to make vaccines against the new variants quickly. We have a new
Sure.
variant that will probably be significant in the winter, yet our vaccine doesn't match it. So my point is make the right vaccine, let companies innovate as they do. You don't have to pay them to do it. They will, as you said,
Yeah.
innovate, make an effective vaccine, and we only need it for the most vulnerable Americans. It's like 65 million
Yeah.
Americans.
Well, I'm glad we're on the same page as not dumping a bunch of government money into that. But the bigger issue here is they're already talking about mask mandates. Some colleges are already doing it. They're talking about, putting obviously vaccine mandates for college kids, which we know are at the absolute lowest end of the risk spectrum. But there is nothing in there that the CDC is recommending. We know 100% for a fact that if you're healthy and fit with less body fat percentage, you are less prone to complications with COVID. Why are we not pushing that?
Well, let me pick up on that part because it's really important. It's gotten lost in all of this. The reason rural Americans and significant other Americans are dying at a higher rate is because they don't have access to health care. All their hospitals have closed. So it's not because of where they voted in rural America. It's because they don't have access to health care like the rest of urban America. Secondly, the biggest risk to severe disease outside of that elderly group.
Why
were
did those
people
hospitals close, by the way? Sorry to interrupt you, doctor.
They've been closing since all through the 2000s. They've been closing because of how CMS treats them, what they're allowed to do, the regulations that they have to confront. And believe me, people are not going to drive 150 miles to get routine health care.
That's
And
true.
so their health significantly deteriorates. It's not only that they died of higher rates of COVID, they died of higher rates of cancer, diabetes, heart disease. All of the other diseases that have gotten better in urban areas have deteriorated in rural areas, and they're the individuals making our food and providing us with oil and gas.
Yeah, well, I mean that is shocking. But let's get back to the lockdowns. Do you think there is political appetite? But they're looking at imposing these mandates on a lot of things, whether it be pick one, vaccine, masks, or whatever. But they weren't as effective as they said, at least not imposed as the way they want to reimpose them. So what do you do, and how do you tell people, oh, trust us this time?
The same thing we've done to battle pandemics around the globe. You tell people the truth. These vaccines
But they
were
didn't
made
do
to
that.
protect the vulnerable, but we need to. Because
I
we
agree.
need to still protect the Americans who are most vulnerable. And, I live in a multi-generational household. My mother's 94. She's never gotten COVID. I've been able to protect her. I work full time. It's about educating, not mandating. You mandate when you have nothing, when you don't have tools and and people are dying. Once we got past April of 2020, there was no reason to mandate things as much as to educate people on who was vulnerable and who needed to be protected. And so what we do need to do is make sure Americans know when there's going to be a wave, when COVID is coming, and if they have elderly in their households or people getting cancer treatment or immunosuppressed, they can rally around and protect those family members during that wave. They're short-lived, and you have to do it intensely for a short period of time. But in the rest of the year, you don't have to do it. And that it's about giving people information and empowering them for their own decision making. I am
Yeah.
all for independent decision making.
Right. Well, and that was the problem is like the information we got at the time when it first came out was super limited. And then it turned out to be a lot of the things that continued push they knew were wrong, like Dr. Fauci. And it was devastating. Dr. Birx, we appreciate you being here very much.
Protect your family members.
All right.
We're in the middle of the wave. Thank you.
We definitely want to protect our family members. It's just an issue of what we do. All right. Thank you.